Oh man, these videos are awesome. So this is a guy, if you're doing carnivore, you probably know who this guy is because you probably don't like him. And he's being interviewed by Thomas DeLaire, who is a very famous YouTuber, big as The Rock. Paul Saladino is a medical doctor who originally started practicing psychiatry, but ended up becoming kind of the carnivore guru. He wrote some books on carnivore and keto, and he's kind of like Spicoli, but just a lot smarter. Has just as good of a tan. Now the funny thing about this video is it's talking about how Paul Saladino quit carnivore and now eats 300 carbs per day, 300 grams of carbs per day. Is it even possible? Can there be two better looking guys on YouTube? But let's discuss this. So in summary, what's been going on here is Paul Saladino is talking about a book that he wrote where he basically said carbs are bad and you basically want to keep your insulin levels very, very low. And he's changed his mind, and he's a big proponent of eating honey and fruit and saying fruit is bad. And of course, he's upset a lot of people who do carnivore and are staunch carnivores. And they're upset at him because he's kind of rocked the boat and said, hey man, you do need some sugars. And he's changed his mind. And I applaud him for at least admitting it, because so many people, once they jump on the bandwagon, it's like they have to stay on that to keep their reputation. But he seems like a smart guy. He's a doctor now. I don't know if he practices. He's mainly a YouTuber, but you'll have seen him on this channel, on Knee Over Toes Guy. He's just kind of doing the rounds. I'm jealous. Someday I would like to do the rounds and make millions on YouTube. But he lives in Costa Rica, I believe, and he looks like he'd fit in well in California. But nonetheless, he lives in Costa Rica. He's a big proponent of eating meat and organ meats and fruit and honey and all these things. And I thought it was interesting because one of the things that they kind of talked about that they overlooked, or it just kind of said in passing, is that he was eating a pure carnivore diet, but he was getting heart palpitations, he was having trouble sleeping, his testosterone was going down. However, because he stopped eating vegetables, his eczema went away, which is fascinating because that is one of the benefits. But if you follow a diet and you're getting muscle cramps and heart palpitations and you're losing sleep and your testosterone is going downhill, and this is a young guy. I mean, he looks good, but he's young. I mean, he could be my kid. I would not advise a diet that gives you all those medical problems, but yet cures the eczema. But yet you'd be curious as to why the eczema went away when he stopped eating vegetables. And the big thing I got out of this particular interview was not the fact that he's rocking the boat in the carnivore world by saying you should have fruit. That's not really that big of a deal. It's the fact that it's possible that vegetables in general are healthy for people, but in his particular case, he found out that he probably didn't do well with vegetables. And this is the main thing I want to get through to all my subscribers, is there probably is a great diet that would work wonders for you, but you got to figure out what it is. And it may be not keto, not carnivore, not Mediterranean, not vegan, not vegetarian, not zone, but some combination of figuring out what will work the best for you. And it takes experimentation. So what I would recommend is pick the guru that you want to follow their advice, but be aware that there may be some problems, just as he did. He literally wrote the book on carnivore and keto, and yet was getting all these problems from it. And when he finally reintroduced some carbohydrates in the form of sugar, not vegetables, he started feeling a lot better. And it's interesting because on my channel, I will recommend that you eat vegetables in general, but that doesn't mean that I'm tied to that for every single patient. There are some vegetables I just don't like the taste of. I'm sure they're healthy. I'm sure they would improve my health. I just don't like them. and thus I don't eat them. Some vegetables my body just doesn't agree with. It's not that those vegetables are bad, it's that those vegetables are bad for me. As a general rule, though, we almost agree that processed foods are bad for you. There's nothing in a box that's going to make you healthier. So I would advise to stay away from a lot of processed foods, foods where you read the ingredients and you just can't even read them, let alone understand them. Clearly, there's people that change their mind, that realize that what they said didn't work for them in the long run after, because they only did that for about a year or year and a half, something like that. But there's doctors that are writing books about how to eat Snickers and be healthy. So I would go based on your gut intuition, and that's not a pun, but to go on your gut intuition and try to figure out what foods agree with you and what foods don't, and come up with your own diet, just as Paul Saladino did.